Welcome to the COVID Chronicles YYC. I'm Denise Summers of M4 Communications. I'm a business storyteller and communications consultant here in Calgary. And today we're talking to Rick Andison, who is the project director of Buildings Group at Stuart Olson, a enormous $1 billion company which has been around since 1911. And its clients are found in the commercial and residential development areas, oil and gas, hospitality, mining, healthcare, and education, to name just a few. So welcome, Rick, and thanks for joining us here today.
Thanks, Denise. Pleasure to be here.
Yeah, and so tell me a little bit more about the work you do at Stuart Olson. What do you do and who do you do it with?
So by definition, the project director leads a group of numerous different project teams. So, there is sort of the helicopter mom, senior leadership, directing traffic to a certain degree as oversight to the actual individual projects that we deal with. So I've got a number of projects and project teams that I assist with and, provide support for. In addition to that, Stuart Olson has a Center for Building Performance out in Vancouver that I'm very involved with in our analytics and GPON overwriting networks, those types of things, as well as business development is a big part of what I do on a day-to-day basis.
Right. And Stuart Olson's been around for a long time. I think it's 1911 or something.
Yeah, you bet. Yeah, they're one of the kind of the old guard, major institutional Alberta-based companies that are out there, and it's a great group. We've got a really good, solid team, very enthusiastic group, and just love the culture here.
Oh, well, that's great. That's so important. And so how did you get into this work? What's the story behind how you got into doing this?
Well, school-wise, I mean, I think it all started from my first drafting class in junior high school. Everything that I wanted to follow as a potential vocation in my adult life started out a shop class. So it didn't matter whether it was drafting or photography or metal shop, automotives, all of that type of stuff that, was kind of the part and parcel of the time. And I found that I had a niche for drafting that led to architectural technology at SAIT. And I was basically a holiday away from being involved with the architectural world or the construction world. And the architect that I'd actually interviewed with, initially, he needed somebody to start immediately, and I was going on a trip right after graduation to England for 3 weeks. So when I got back, I started with PCL in Edmonton and got bit really hard by the construction bug, and that's kind of what stuck. And one of the things that I always relate is when I was a kid, I was fanatical about building model kits, and as I got older, the model kits just kept getting a little bit bigger.
Okay. And so we're in the midst of this COVID pandemic, which has impacted everyone. And so what effect has that had on your business and the work that you do?
Directly, I would suggest that it hasn't had a whole bunch of real direct, at least at this stage of the game. We were designated as an essential service. So absolutely, we had stricter protocols for safety that were required that we had to administer on site. But as our company president put it, this is what we do. The safety aspect of stuff and keeping our people safe and making sure that all of our trade partners, consultants, owners, and everybody else are kind of toeing the line from a safety perspective is something that we do on a day-to-day basis. So some additional measures to make sure that people are kept safe. The implementation of all of the requirements due to COVID, it was just what we do. And that was one of the basic things that I found profoundly simple when everybody is kind of losing their minds over panicking and all the rest of that type of stuff. When you dial it back to the lowest common denominator, this is what we get paid to do on a day-to-day basis, is look after people and deliver projects.
So it's kind of business as usual for you.
To a great degree. I mean, you can't ignore what's going on out there, certainly from an economic standpoint, and particularly in Alberta. The effect that it's had on small business, of course, you look at landlords commercially downtown, is a ghost town right now. So there's some very profound changes that we're going to see moving forward. I believe that business is a bit like water. It'll find the path of least resistance. But it's been a bit of a shock treatment to all aspects of commerce that we have to contend with this right now.
Right, right. Yeah, and the construction industry is often a barometer for how an economy is doing. And what have you seen? Has construction slowed down, or what's happening in the sector as a whole?
Well, I'll tell you, depending on the sector, like residential obviously has been hit pretty hard, single family, to a certain degree, multifamily. But there's a lot of work going on in Calgary right now. And, typically across the province, the government, we're seeing lots of maintenance type projects, the shovel ready projects that everybody refers to. So lots of re-roofs, window replacements, building envelope upgrades, those types of things. But with the announcement of the convention center and obviously the event center, we've got the ring road underway. We've got a number of tower cranes going up downtown right now. So there's lots of activity out there. However, there's that undercurrent of what is going to happen. And I think that type of uncertainty is what everybody's grappling with right at the moment.
Right, right. Yeah. And certainly Alberta's been hit very hard. Yeah, kind of a triple whammy here. And so out of every crisis, there comes opportunities. Do you see opportunities out of this for the construction sector?
I think that it's not just pertaining to the construction center, Denise. I think that opportunity is something, at least with all of the stuff that I'm listening to or watching or being involved with on webinars and all the rest of that type of stuff. We've gotten past that initial panic thing. I mean, we're seeing in the US certain rebounds of the COVID spikes and that type of thing, but people are starting to get their heads around, what does this look like after now? And what are the opportunities? What, from a landlord perspective, what are the assets that I hold? What does that look like going forward? How do I service my tenants? What do my tenants look like? All of those types of things are starting to come into the conversation. And I find that really, really exciting right now, because that's when innovation and ingenuity really start to take hold. And you know what, the more people that we talk to and the more people that we engage with, whether it's at the ownership level, the governmental level, or the sub-trades, designers, whoever the case might be, everybody's starting to at least align in those things and maybe look past this, with a little bit of optimism. Again, there's so much uncertainty that nobody's got any control over at this stage of the game, but you just have to, focus and control what you can.
Yeah, that's all we have control over. And so what would you like to see happen for your industry and for Calgary?
I'd like to see the Conference Board of Canada being absolutely correct in their 6% growth for Alberta next year.
Yeah.
I'm not entirely sure how realistic that is, but boy, it's sure a nice thing to think about, which, at that point, it's going to create its own set of problems. We're kind of like the coffee row guys, and we're complaining when the weather's bad. We're complaining when times are bad, times are good, all the rest of it. So I think that there's some really good opportunity coming, and we'll see what shakes loose with that moving forward.
Right, and you've been a business leader, leading teams for a long time. Do you have any advice for other leaders during this crisis, or as we start to return to some kind of normal?
Leaders need leaders. And I don't care who you are, you're still a human being at the end of the day, and everybody has to deal with their own emotions, their own family issues, how they deal with crisis, how they deal with anxiety. Everybody's, falls in a different place on the bell curve of dealing with all of this stuff. one of the things I would reach out to or suggest is that you surround yourself with a really good circle of influence, trusted individuals, people who will listen, people who are a good shoulder to cry on, people who verify what you're feeling, and that type of stuff, and really tap into those checks and balances. It's really, really important from a mental health perspective for everybody right now. Just making sure that you're not getting overwhelmed with the news, the newspapers, the financial markets. I mean, you watch the markets on a day-to-day basis, it's just going to drive you batty anyway. But again, focus on the stuff that you've got control over. Look at that person in the mirror at the end of the day and say, how am I approaching this day? Do I need to listen? Do I need to take a step back? Who can I tap into to do that supports me? And it's really, really important. I talk to all kinds of peers in the business. I mean, when you're in the business as long as I've been and lived in Calgary as long as I've been, there's a lot of really good people you've either worked with, worked for, all the rest of that type of stuff. So you can go have hopefully a real live coffee with now, but certainly lots of virtual coffees at this stage of the game. And just have a sounding board. It's really, really important to know that, and support those around you they're closest to you, your family, your spouse, your cousins, nieces, children, the whole bag.
Right. Well, that's great. And that kind of brings us to the end of our interview, Rick. Is there anything you want to add?
Everybody talks about it and you hear it on a day-to-day basis, and we'll get past it, and we'll get past this, we'll grow from it, all the rest of that type of stuff. It's really good to kind of keep that perspective. But when you're in the here and now, whether you've lost a job or you've lost somebody to COVID, whatever the case might be, it's really difficult to focus on that as a go forward. But I think it's very sound advice, and it's kind of one of those things, what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. And you've got to hang on to something like that. Have a little faith that we will get past this. We'll grow from it. It's really interesting to see this happening, kind of in the modern world. I think that we find ourselves thinking that we're a little smarter than we are sometimes, when it could be something as simple as this that brings everybody together. But with everything else that's going on in the world, people are people, and just recognize them for that at face value. Everybody has value as a person, and talk and listen to people right now. It's really important to listen and acknowledge.
Absolutely. And yeah, we've all been impacted, and it's been a great leveler, and hopefully out of this will come some lasting change for the better in the world. So
absolutely.
Yeah. So thank you for joining us today, Rick. Really appreciate it. And you're off on a holiday tomorrow, so enjoy that. And thanks to everybody for tuning in to the COVID Chronicles again. And Calgary strong, and stay safe and healthy.
You bet. Thanks, Denise.
Thanks, Rick.